Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Mr. Sri Kumarji from Ministry of Corporate Affairs, our chairperson, CLCGC, she is Shri Priya Kumar, Mr. Arun, Mr. Rohit Bhatt, LNT, and entire team, Sarika, the secretary, CLCGC, ICAI, the Sakshi, the faculty, and all my dear friends, a very good afternoon to all of you. And we are presenting once again the series. This is the webinar series on MCA 21 version 3 edition 8. And this we are organizing since a month. All of you are aware. And the Ministry of Corporate Affairs is working on its flagship project, that is MCA version 21 version 3, to improve the ease of doing business ranking of India. And as a part of the implementation drive, the ministry has already launched the version 3 platform and also launched the eLLP module recently, by virtue of which all LLP filing has been made web-based. MCA further planning to revamp the filing related to company e-form as well. So once this e-filing of LLP module is established, the company e-forms will start. And at ICAI, as a knowledge partner and a partner in nation building, we are assisting ministry on this project by adopting 3G approach, that is provide guidance, support grievance, and enable go live. And for that guidance, we are organizing these programs on regular basis, at least thrice in a week, every alternate days. The grievance, we have already launched the Google form, and if you have any issues, please put it in the Google form. It's already there. If you do not have, I once again request Sarika, which I had also requested in the last session, to put it in the chat box so that everyone is aware about it and they can put their issues on this LLP filing form. Again, enable go live, which we are coordinating, and I would share with all of you that our chairperson of the committee, Shri Priya, is continuously in touch with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and L&T team, so that this facilitates the smooth go live of the program. In order to provide the guidance, so all these things, the feedback of all of you is very important, so that we can support all of you for this initiative. By attending these programs, the members were able to understand the process of filing various forms on version 3 platforms such as Run Form, Philip, and Form 3, 4, 5, 8, 11, etc. and accordingly were able to successfully file the same. Numerous forms have been filed on V3 platform now, which proves that the platform is extremely stable and making more and more stabilization so that the filing will go smoothly as soon as possible. It is my utmost pleasure to state that we have been able to cater the needs of almost all the professionals and other stakeholders in respect of migration to V3 platform in the form of guidance and grievance both. Going forward with our objective of knowledge dissemination, and as a part of 3G drive, the CLCGC jointly with Ministry of Corporate Affairs is conducting this 8th edition of webinar series on MCA 21 version 3. I sincerely believe that by attending today's program, the stakeholders will gain comprehensive understanding on the new ways of LLP filing on the revamped MCA 21 V3 portal and get resolved that their issues. Again, I'm telling all of you friends, yesterday with lot of efforts of our office, along with under the guidance of Shri Priya madam, they have also come up with frequently asked questions, FAQs. So if you have any issues, if you go to the FAQs, it will get resolved. So we have the series of the sessions. Today is, we'll start with the session, talk of Mr. Sri Kumarji, and then followed by our chairperson madam, and then followed by the Rohit ji. So I request respected Sri Kumarji to please give his words, share his words of wisdom.
Yeah, thank you, Preeti Madam. And I welcome all our institute members once again for this webinar series. And I convey my sincere thanks, particularly to Sri Priya Madam and her team members for bringing out the FAQs so beautifully. And it is very, very helpful for the stakeholders. And we have finalized those FAQs also. And very shortly, it will be posted in the MCA website. Again, we have also proposed to provide a video demo with regard to DSC association login registration, so that user can easily understand and without any issues they can go ahead while doing transaction with MCA portal for any sort of filings. So far, around 10,000 forms we can see filed in MCA portal, which includes Philip, run forms, and other annual returns, balance form 8, that is a financial statement, and the forms with regard to charges. So one by one, we are meticulously seeing each and every issue and getting it and ensure that those issues got resolved. And during this process, ICAI's contribution is phenomenal, and MCA, we sincerely thanks once again to the entire team of ICSA and its office bearers for their continuous support. Today, in today's webinar, our LTI team members, Rohit Bhatt, Sakshi, Vijaya Gampana, and from PMA also Mr. Usman Ali and Richa Gupta, Raina Falvadia have joined. They will enlighten the process of filing procedures. Today we are going to see form number 8, that is with regard to financial statement and charges. I believe already Sakshi had thrown light on financial statement, and with regard to charge part only today we are going to see in form number 8. Of course, there is no legal requirement for filing particulars of charges as available in the companies for LLPs. But stakeholders have to provide, in case of any creation, modification, or satisfaction of charge, they have to provide all those charge particulars in form number 8 within 30 days from the closure of 6 months of their financial statement. So this particular seminar will be very, very, very helpful. And I request our LTI team members to provide some more clarification on DSC association login and other forms. Whatever we have already come across, form 3 run LLP. If any issues or specific issues reported by the stakeholders, those issues can be clarified in this webinar. So thank you everyone once again. Over to Rohit Bhatt and Sakshi team. Thanks once again.
So before that, the Mr. Rohit starts, I'll request our chairperson, Sri Priya Kumar, to please share.
Is my slide visible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sri Kumar, Mr. Arun from the Ministry and the Government, Rohit, Sakshi, Rena, and all other members present in this webinar, Vijaya particularly. It's been an absolute delight to work with the MCA team and the LNT team. The knowledge that's been displayed by both the stakeholders, the key stakeholders, has been exemplary. There have been a few challenges in implementing this process. And we came across a particular situation where most stakeholders were not able to appreciate that it is one seamless portal today, whether it's V2 or V3, and on this exact process of login, registration, the DSC association, DSC affixing, etc. So we quickly got together as a team and we've put out a very simple FAQ on the subject, The FAQ is looked at from an absolute user perspective, like you or me, and in fact, my own knowledge of this would be lesser than most of the participants who are attending this program. So we've taken the opportunity to actually present a set of FAQs for absolute user clarity. And should you have any doubts on these FAQs, it'll only run for about 15 minutes is my presentation. Please feel free to throw any questions you have and they will be answered right in the webinar today. The second part of this presentation will also be other commonly asked questions that L&T has said they would respond on today. Even if we don't have time for Form 8, we'll have a good Q&A session today where we hope stakeholders would be benefited. And I think this is more or less the 9th edition of this webinar, and very happy to let you know that we must have crossed about 17,000, 18,000 participants. So we've done about 36,000 hours of training on LLPs alone. So what are we going to go through in this presentation? A very brief overview on the MCA 21, what's V2 and what's V3, login user registration, DSC association, DSC affixing, and some important pointers which are embedded within the FAQs themselves. And we'll conclude with a Q&A, and I request the L&T team to take on the Q&A. So what's the V2 portal of MCA? Very simple. So there was a portal, there is a portal where we are expected to file forms online as compared to the earlier process that existed a couple of years back when you would have to go and give your documents in paper. So V2 very simplistically is the version 2 of the MCA portal, MCA 21, which is present to file various forms relating to companies and LLPs. Now, since March 8th, LLP services have been discontinued on the V2 portal and have been migrated to V3 portal. It's called V3, that's about it. Now, what is V3? It's an enhanced version of the portal that MCA has. And it obviously comes with a lot more features where you go and fill your forms online rather than filling it and then uploading it. So it's tremendously convenient to a user. You just log in, you say, call your run LLP, you file everything and you submit it there. So the V3 portal, this enhancement, eventually even the companies will migrate to V3, but currently V3 is active. And I think MCA has taken a very, very good decision to do this migration in parts. So LLPs are first migrated, then the company forms are being migrated. This is also what most stakeholders wanted about the earlier IT portal. We felt it could have been done modular. So it answers your question. The V3 portal presently enables the following only for LLPs, which is the login and user registration, the DSC association, filing various LLP forms, run, Philip, 3, 4, 8, 9, everything. There are about 20 LLP forms. And V3 was rolled out on 8th March 2022. Now, where should I file LLP forms and company forms? As far as a user is concerned, your forms eventually go to V3 for LLP, while company forms are still in version 2, which is the old system of download, upload, etc. This migration is done slowly to enable a smooth transition of the new portal, because obviously the MCA deals with a humongous amount of users. You know, you have something like 18 lakh companies, lakhs of LLPs. Now, but the most important thing is both V2 and V3 work seamlessly. So as a user, you really don't have to understand and go to a separate place to log into V2, V3, etc. It forms part of the main mcagov.in, the same page. When will the company forms be migrated to V3? LLP forms have been migrated. The date of migration will be intimated in due course and should happen in a couple of months. Now, this is the main question that people said, oh, LLP. They said, do I have to look for a separate website for LLP forms? No. The access to both versions sit within the same shell. You can see it in the sign up in the MCA portal, mca.gov.in, where you have a separate access for LLP and a separate access for companies related filing. I'll come to that again, once again. So you have this, the sign in or the register button on the right-hand corner. Once you go in there, you will be automatically guided. It will say for company forms, go here. For LLP forms, go here. And there would be a register button in the middle. Now, what are the main differences between V2 and V3? This is purely for our academic understanding. First of all, V3 is an online filing versus V2 was a file and upload kind of method. In V2, there was only a My Workspace where you would have your list of notices, circulars, etc. But in V3, you have a personalized My Application. What does it do for you? It's almost like you have your own private space within the MCA portal. So as a user, you'll know what are all the forms that you filed. What is the status of such forms? Have you saved and just stored a form? Do you have to make a payment on that form? All those will be visible in the My Application, which I think is an extremely good. It's like a self-service option. Now, when a user logs into V3, that's the most important difference. The login is through the email ID, whereas in V2, you are going in with a user ID. So in V3, the primary key is your mail ID. When a business user logs into the MCA system, an OTP is now sent. Previously, those options were not available. So you have a better control feature in V3 to make sure that it is the intended person who's transacting. As far as associating DSC is concerned, there's no difference between version 2 and version 3. But we also recognized one thing. When you're doing something like this, it's also important to explain to a brand new user. You may be a user who has never worked in MCA before. The whole idea is all of us need to start using the system. So these FAQs are also intended to guide new users and hence are extremely fundamental. So we start with who's a user in V3. A user there are two types of users, a registered user and a business user. We had many queries on who's a registered user. To answer that, registered users comprise of any individuals. Such users can do only two things in the LLP module, run form and fill up form. Now for the run, it's a far simpler, just straight process. Whereas for a fill up, you will have a DSC affixing, but we'll come to that later. Now there is no change in the naming convention of a registered user between V2 and V3. We are called the same. Who is a business user? A business user can be any one of the following who can access and file all forms. No change in the nomenclature or position of a business user between V2 and V3. And when you are registering yourself as a user, you can select the most appropriate category, which is a company, director or a DP, manager, secretary, AR, officer in default, or professional. There's only a small change in professional. Professional user in V3, which is chartered accountants, etc., was termed earlier as practicing professional in V2. That's the only change. Now, if you're an existing user, do you need to re-register in V3 once again? No, obviously not, because the system already has you. And it is one integrated system. So the MCA is not asking you to re-register today. If you're an existing user in V2, you don't need to register once again. However, if you try to re-register again in V3, it will not permit it, because if you've given the same mail ID in V2 and V3, it will automatically prevent you from re-registering, because no organization wants to have two users with the same name. But this is another challenge that has happened. Many of our users have gone and created registrations in V3. So let's assume earlier my username was sk123 and my mail ID was at gmail.com. Today I have gone to V3 and I have done ABC456 as my user ID and with my primary mail ID as let's say a Yahoo mail ID. Now we found a lot of users who were trying to fill forms using the wrong ID. So such registrations in V3, when it already exists in V2, please avoid, not because of anything else, but because you will get confused. I will go to a company form and try to use my V3 registration, which is my Yahoo ID, and it won't work. Similarly, you may end up going to LLP and trying to use a V2 ID, which will not work. That is only because you have created a new registration in V3. I'm a new user and I want to register in MCA. So it's fairly simple. You go to the web page, there is a sign in, sign up button there. Then you click it. You will find two buttons. One button for LLP filing. Once you click this, it will take you to a page. There will be LLP filing, there will be company filing, and in the middle, there will be a button called register. So you can register, and which is precisely why the register button is placed in the middle. Once you register there, you can file both V2 and V3, but kindly ensure that you don't double register. Please click on the register button. It takes you to a registration page. Thereafter, you choose a user category and a user role as applicable, whether it's a registered user or a business user, and you choose your role, director, designated partner, etc. There are registration FAQs which are available. You can complete your registration process and log in. Once you're done, you will receive an email or an SMS on successful registration and SMS. How long will the registration process take? This is another very important question where a lot of people have had challenges. If you have registered in V3, you can immediately start transacting in V3. But you have registered in V3, which is, I remember I told you there is a register button in the portal option. When you register there, if you want to use a company form, it will take about 4 to 5 hours. This is assuming you're a new user wanting to transact for a company form. Now you will receive 2 different passwords, one each for LLP filing and company upon completion of the registration. What information needs to be provided? I'm not going to focus on this because this is actually, it asks you the right questions for which you have to give the right answers. Email ID, phone number, address. However, not all fields are compulsory for all users. So kindly ensure that you fill in those details which are marked mandatory. So I'll just leave you a few seconds for you to glance at this slide, but this is basically once you go in, for most of us who operate seamlessly on several social media and other platforms, this is just like a simple option. Can a registered user upgrade to a business user? So these are the other advantages. Yes, you can upgrade to a business user. Please don't create a new business user. You can upgrade your profile, you can change your profile, etc. Now, the most important thing is, even if you're a registered user in V2, you can upgrade to a business user in V3. What's the benefit of being a business user? Because other than Run LLP and Philip, if you're a registered user, you can't file anything. Only a business user can file other forms in LLP. So once you sign in, so to be able to upgrade your profile or alter your profile, you first sign in. It'll give you a small hello and your name. You click on the icon, you select the profile update page, click on add role, and then you add whichever role you want to add yourself to. I'm a CA in a professional role. Can I also have a director role? Yes. This is the same thing. I just thought I should take one more question. So you can be a director, you can also be a professional. A registered user in one category can add any other category such as under. So you can add. So I'm a company secretary. The following categories can be added: director, manager, secretary, officer in default, etc. Now, you come across a logical situation. My details have changed. Let's say my mail ID, I want to use a different mail ID. My mobile number is changed. Now, details can be updated by visiting the profile page. Again, you click in, you log in, but most important, it doesn't allow you to change everything. So it's quite obvious, right? You can't generally, if you're a company, you can't just like that change your address, state to another, etc., etc. Those controls have been built in, but an address cannot be changed by the company, LLP user, director, or designated partner. You can't change the mail ID of an individual director or a partner, mobile number of a director or a partner. Again, many issues on forgot password. So, this logically happens because most of us don't do company forms every day. We do it once in 6 months, 8 months, etc. So how do I recover my password? To recover LLP V3 password, you just created yourself and you've forgotten. Sign in, sign up. Click on forgot password. You'll get your new password. See, I had mentioned to you, right? When you go in, you will find login filing and services for LLP filing. There is a register button. Immediately after this button, you will find one more button called login for company filing, which is why the register is kept in white, and you register, it registers you in both V2 and V3. Now, to recover V2 password, you have to go back to V2. That's the only change. You were in V2, you did not update your password in V3, or you did not create a new registration. If you want to recover your V2 password, this is the same process that you followed earlier in your V2, which I don't think I need to explain, but this is where it stands. Login for company filing, forgot password, click, recover your password. So good. I've created a user for myself, registered business. I've also upgraded myself. I had a presence in V2, but I've decided to ignore it and create a new user ID for myself, possible with a different mail ID. Now I need to transact. I need to transact in the portal, for which I need to log in. How do I log in? You go into the MCA website, sign in, sign up. When you click this button, 3 tabs will be obviously visible in a vertical format. You would have this login for LLP filing. You will have register. And after this, you will have login for company filing. Since we had actually picked these from Word FAQs, which we wanted to keep short, we'd not put in the pictures, but again, it's self-explanatory. If you want to do LLP, go to LLP filing. If you want to do company filing, go to company filing. This is precisely the seamless experience we're talking about. Although the implementation has been done in 2 phases, for companies separately and LLPs which have gone live, the idea is to just keep it all together. So that's exactly what's been accomplished here. Other than for the forgot password alone, it's a 1-point transacting agenda. So I finished. Now, the other challenge that a lot of members have had is on associating a DSC. What's associating a DSC? It's the process by which a unique signature is mapped to a user ID. This is required because your forms are getting filled and submitted online rather than in physical mode. So obviously they wanted to have a higher level of controls by mapping a user to an ID here itself. How is the associating of the DSC done? Go to mca.gov.in, log into the portal as if you're filing an LLP form, go to MCA services, go to FO services, go to associate DSC. And I presume if you're an existing V2 user, you would have already associated your DSC there. What are the system specifications required to associate the DSC? You can associate your DSC only as a business user in V3. So you don't have that option anymore in the other version. Log in using your credentials. Go to MCA services, FO LLP services, associate DC. Download and run Embridge. It'll be the second option that comes on your screen. Kindly make sure that it's the latest version of Embridge that you have. Embridge client must be running in the background. For associate DSC, the DSC user must be of class 2 or a higher class. Change the DSC password. This is extremely important. So previously, everything used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the changes were not required. But now you need to change your password. Select your ePass option, select certificate details and enter the DSC password. Click on register and you will receive a confirmation message on the portal. Is DSC mandatory for all forms? Only for those forms which are required to be digitally signed. For Run LLP, there's no requirement to affix the DSC. How can a registered user? Now, very interestingly, it's a Philip form. So we said for a Philip form alone, even a registered user can associate, can file a Philip form. But a registered user need not associate his DSC, right, at that stage. Now, only for this form purpose, a registered user can associate his DSC using his PAN by doing the following in the Philip forms. For filling the Philip form, it's the same process. But the thing we are trying to say is if you're a registered user, you can associate your DSC with your PAN. How do I affix my DSC? That's something we are very, very familiar with. You complete the filling up of the form and you submit the form. An SRN number gets generated. It comes to you by mail and SMS. It's extremely nice. If you go to your My Application page, all your SRN numbers will come. The only thing you need to remember is to scroll to the right extreme of that page. You will find the actions pending. You'll have these lovely tabs that tell you what to do. Payment process, payment pending, pending processing, resubmission, etc. Now, when you click and when you've run your SRN, the form is also auto-downloaded as a PDF in your system. Now, for some reason, your PDF is not getting downloaded, please don't panic. You can still go to your My application and download the PDF, open the PDF, affix the DSC as a normal process. After signing the documents, the user will be able to require to upload the PDF on the MCA portal, directed to a page where you can affix the PDF document. So this is all we wanted to convey in terms of a set of 25 to 30 simple FAQs, which are already placed on the MCA website. And if you have any questions on this, I will also request ICI to record this entire session. We've also, by the way, for the benefit of the others, we've recorded all the 7 sessions and we'll place it on the portal. So will this be. And if you have any questions, you may start placing them now. Well, thank you once again. Thank you very much. And we hope to come out with these FAQs on almost everything. We'll try and keep it brief so that we sort of pick it up fast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sripriya Madam, for your wonderful presentation. It throws excellent idea about the DSC association and login ID creation to the stakeholders. In fact, you have shared the burden of MCA. Thank you once again. Rohit ji.
Ma'am, majorly the questions are onto, like, if promoters company do not file DIR 12 against director who resigned and filed DIR 11, what is the status of director who filed DIR 11 and his liabilities? I think it is for Sri Kumar sir, general question.
And it is a general question, but Sri Kumar sir, my suggestion is most of the users here are technical users who've come in for the portal. So if you want, we can take this question. Otherwise, we'll go to the more technical questions.
Today's idea is mainly focus on LLP related issues and login and technical issues. And
Kumar sir, am I audible?
Yeah, Rohit ji, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was speaking on for a long mute. So this question is completely on a company form perspective, and we are here for the LLP today. So the questions we'll answer today is specific to LLP only, ma'am.
Sure. So I'll call out the questions. We have switched from registered user to business user, but we are unable to log in the LLP portal because it's showing a blank page.
This seems to be a user which is little bit unique. So probably the issue is unique because we already have more than 10,000 users being registered. We just need to understand your issue, sir. If you can just put it in the Google form, will help us to resolve this issue, sir.
Sure. From Mr. Sunil Agarwal, we are not able to register as a business user. After feeding the 4 OTPs, we are getting a message that something went wrong.
Yeah, so there is some change in this that we are happening. We also feel like this should be changed, and we are in discussion with MCA to change this because having 4 OTPs at one go, either one of them will expire. What happens is the OTP is still valid for 10 minutes. Even if it shows or it is going within the 2 seconds, you still have 10 minutes to again to put all 4 OTPs into the system. It will take it up. If still not, we are trying to change something into this because we have received a lot of feedback on this. Having 4 OTPs at one go will be a little bit problematic. We are trying to fix this issue with some different way, having design same, just to have a quick fix. We are trying to see that how this can be fixed. Allow us some time, sir.
Are you saying that the user has generated 4 OTPs continuously and the earlier one is not getting cancelled? Is that what you mean to say?
No. So there is, see, even for OTP, if it is getting expired, it will be still there for 10 minutes valid. All the OTPs 4. So what is happening? Let's say example, there are 4 OTPs that will come. Okay, on the screen there will be 4 OTPs options that will be, and in any of the OTPs, if it is taking more time or he has not received it. So in that case, it takes a lot of time for the user to get his user ID registered against it. So that is one of the reasons. And this is for only one case where the company or business user has to be filed. Otherwise, it is not 4, it's only 2.
Okay. And it says further, because of that, he's not able to access LLP Form 8 as a business user. So just hold on. But in any case, this Rohitji, when we tested, we didn't obviously look for the user registration, right? So so this is the 4 OTPs. Okay.
Yeah, this is the 4 OTP for this case only, not for all.
Sure. So these are the 4 questions we've got as of now on the aspect of just this registered DSCs and the OTP. Sarika, any more?
Yeah, we are not able to access LLP Form 8 without.
So may I request, ma'am, because we have 10 questions, the top questions we are taking. Maybe those questions may get answered within that.
Excellent.
After that, we'll take questions.
Excellent.
If that is fine, yeah.
Yes.
So maybe Raina or Saurabh, can you just share your screen, please?
And now in the process, what we've done is we've picked up a lot of user responses and looked at the top 10 issues, which seem to be common. And L&T is doing a presentation. And I must also compliment both MCA and L&T, because whatever we request for, like I think this request for this top 10 questions was made exactly 1.5 hours back. And it's very unusual of a large organization to, want to do it so quickly. So an extra special thanks, Rohitji.
Oh, ma'am, can you please enable me to share my
screen?
Okay,
I'll share it. That's fine.
Okay.
Sure. So as ma'am was saying, we picked up this just 1 hour and just trying to see, we just run through all the questions that we have in the system and try to put it. So for the first question was unable to create a user ID because at the time of OTP verification, it shows an invalid OTP, even though it is correct. So this is again same question that we had for the 4 options that we have, but in the other places, what you need to do is, sir or ma'am. So if you remember, for the 2 options, there are 2 seconds of the validity of that OTP that normally comes, and the ticker goes on the below. You need to make sure within that 2 seconds you are putting that OTP in. If you are not putting it in, you have to resend your OTP, sir or ma'am, and the new OTP will be get generated. So that is how the process is. Please make sure if the OTP is not getting received within those 2 seconds, please resend it again. And you need to make sure that we have given options and or. If there is an option of and, in that cases, you need to have both OTPs on your phone as well as email. If it is or on the top, there can be the OTP on the SMS, which may become later because of the service provider of Airtel or the provider we have taken. You can very well take it from email or either way around. That is why the or comes in picture. If there is little bit of delay, make sure you can also check your emails and take the OTP from there and carry forward with your filings. The second option was while registering, cannot see the PIN code of my district while filing. So MCA, what it does is it takes the database from the Department of Post, and what has happened is whatever dump that they had last, we had picked up straight away from there. So based on the recent database that we have seen, there were around 1200 more OTPs PIN codes that they have added. So we have also added that yesterday late night in the system. Now, most of the cases, the OTP will be there. If there are still some OTPs which are not there, that means that it is also not there on the database of Department of Post. So we have done almost 90% of issues may have been resolved now on the PIN code. So I am hopeful that now you will not get such kind of errors again. I am an individual user. What all forms can be filed? So this is something we have received many questions on this. As an individual user, what I can see, what I can access. As an individual user, you can only have 2 forms being visible to you. One is run and Philip, and you can fill those forms only. So if I am an individual user trying to access form 3 or other forms, you won't be able to even open it. It will always take you either to application history or to the home page. because you are not eligible to access this as an individual user. You have to make sure to upgrade yourself in a business or a professional to access other forms as well.
Rohitji, I just want to add here again. I'm not familiar with the V2 terminology, but I think in some of these cases, what the person's question is, I am operating as a person and not the company ID. So what is important is, again, in these responses, ask people to use the term registered user or business user.
Okay.
A business user can also be an individual. So it's just the
Yes.
colloquialization of the term that causes the confusion.
Okay. Okay.
So, but that was clearly explained in the FAQ.
Earlier presentation. Yeah. So which user can access all the forms of LLP? So professional and business users, or we can say the business users, as Shripriya has probably put it across in a presentation as well, you can access all the forms. Not able to create a fresh login ID for LLP, is it compulsory to first register on V2 portal and then only we can register on V3 portal? The answer to this question is no. If you are a V2 user, you can simply go to V3 and use your existing credentials to access it. If I am a fresh user, I will simply go to the new LLP portal and register myself based on the category you may be falling in, business or unregistered, and register yourself. That is how the simple process is. Now, what has happened? There are, and we have been, in multiple calls have been asking, in V2, there have been one email ID, or there have been multiple email IDs being used for different ID creations. Or you can say there was one email ID wherein multiple user IDs were created. However, in V3, it will block you. You have to make sure your email ID that you are using, there should be a single user ID. Against those, the details should be updated. Please don't use multiple IDs. So let's say example, Rohit is already in a V2 and I am registering again in V3 because we have migrated all the data already from V2 to V3. There will be multiple user IDs created for Rohit Bhatt into the database with the same email ID. That will block you. Please don't do that. Otherwise, you won't be able to see your earlier forms. What will happen? Let's say example, Rohit Bhatt has filed multiple forms in V2. If I am creating a fresh registration in V3, in my application history, I won't be able to see my past data because you are coming as in the system, you are coming as a fresh. So you won't be able to see your past data at all. You have to use the past or the earlier ID of V2, log in into V3, and you will be able to see your whole history. For the fresh, you won't be able to. So make sure your earlier, if you're already registered in the earlier version of MCA, make sure, which is V2, make sure you are using the same ID in V3. Also not able to log in with my previous user ID and password. Entire time it's showing an error. User ID is invalid. This is what I was telling you. If you are doing multiple for this particular question, we have to go to our technical teams. We have to deactivate all your IDs which you have created for this user, for this email ID, and activate one ID within this so as to make you are able to log in. We have been requesting it for now multiple times. I am putting it again. Please don't create multiple IDs against one single email ID. That will block you. For this user, we have to make sure to deactivate all the other IDs that you have in the system and activate only one ID which you will be using in new system. We are not able to get our existing credentials registered on
Rohit,
V3
I have
portal.
a question here, Rohit.
Yeah.
As a very lay user, if I have not used my ID for 6 months or something, like a bank, does MCA also deactivate my ID?
Yes, ma'am, 3 months.
So could that be the reason where it says the user ID is invalid?
No, in V2, we didn't have such kind of a system, but in V3, we do have.
Okay. No, so suppose I have logged into V3 today, attempting to log in, but I have not transacted in V2 for 3 months, then it will show me as invalid in V3, right?
Is invalid in V3. Yeah. That is one of the other reason.
Major reason.
Yes.
Could you tell us what we should do? Because my
you have to
understanding
reset your password, ma'am. Simple. Resetting your password, reset yourself, because normally it blocks you from a password perspective. Your user ID does not get blocked. Your password gets blocked. So you need to unblock your password and then start it from there.
Sure. So just to clarify once again, it's quite possible that your V2 password has got blocked. So, which is why when you're trying to transact in V3, the system is trying to call it from V2, or even within V2, it says it's invalid. So you'll have to reset your password. So in this, our members will understand, because we understand this concept of blocking dormant accounts. Yeah, the next one.
Yes, ma'am.
The next.
While login every time, we require an OTP. So it's a request to please make this process hassle-free at least. Sir, this is something as a security breach. We are made sure that the OTPs are sent while logging in. The reason why this is to make a symmetry of the data or the data validation that happens on the system, to make sure that multiple users or multiple IDs are not being used for multiple places to log in. So let's say example, I am using Rohit Bhatt is using this system from HP, and I'm logging into the same thing. If I log in first time, it will ask me OTP. For next time, it won't ask me an OTP. However, if Rohit Bhatt is going to access the desktop, some other PC or some other desktop or some other laptop, it detects the IP. It will again ask me an OTP for a verification purpose, because it wants to verify your address so that your user ID is not getting blocked. So that is the reason this OTP function has been made, to make sure there's a data center.
Rohit, just another one small thing. Today in V3, I can have, when I'm doing a role change, I can have A role or a B role. Is that right? So if I'm transacting as a professional for one case, if I need to transact as a director for the other case, I need to go and change it before transacting as a director. And then if I want to transact as a professional, I have to change my profile once again to professional. Is that right?
Yes,
because
you are right.
V3 does not allow one user to operate more than one profile at one time.
Yes, you are right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that is the reason for multiple roles. The V3 is not for multiple roles. It is for a single role. But if you wanted to move from one role to other role, just upgrade yourself from one role to other role to make sure you are able to access them.
So which means we need to put this out again by adding one FAQ. The question being, can a user exist in two different roles at the same time? It's not.
No.
So
no, the multiple is not there.
Yeah. So which means today, if I want to certify a form as a chartered accountant, I have to go change my role there. Later on, if I want to sign something as a director, I have to go and change myself to being a director.
Yeah.
And that's something they're quite familiar with, right? It's like switching windows. I'm seeing my WhatsApp and then I go see Twitter.
Yes.
So I can't see WhatsApp and Twitter together. And it's quite logical that you can't perform two functions at the same time.
Yes.
And the other thing is, I don't think this is something that is established as a process. A lot of people come back and say, can you make sure that I have more than one profile? It is not logically possible, correct? I can't wear two hats at one time. I can wear only one hat. And that's precisely how the system is configured. Whereas I'm told in V2, it was configured differently.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
Rohit.
Sorry, there's a lot of noise from my side, maybe. Sorry, from my side. We are not able to, okay. My PAN is tagged with someone else's old account, can't access through old login credentials, forced to create a new account. When PAN is tagged to new account, can't sign the company forms. Sir, what for, say already if you are on a V2 user, you don't need to go to LLP to file, you don't need, so you will be going to LLP only to file the LLP forms. For the company, your existing account in the V2 will be still there. You can just simply log in there and go ahead and do it. If there is specific forgot password, I think Shripriya was also showing there's a forgot password in V2 as well. You can go there and just forget your password and just create it again, or change your passwords again, so that you will be able to sign in the company forms. Now, PAN is not mandatorily for the registered users, but there's an option to make sure that there's a data sanity being done and the PAN number has been asked there. There may be a case this PAN number that is there will be associated with the multiple users in V2, which may be impacting you to go into the or log in into the system. For this to happen, please make sure your a technical team is being associated, means that you have to create a ticket on the call center so that this particular issue can be looked after. Unable to convert user ID into business user because one ID already in system, that is PAN based. Now, second problem arises. I had an SRN of the name approved, but when I try to make for a business account, then it throws again this SRN is not mapped to. So this is typical problem I said, right? So the ID or the run SRN you had filed earlier from whatever ID you had filed before the migration happened, please make sure you are using the same ID. So let's say example, as I said, if you were already a registered user in V2 and and the run file was filed with this particular user only, please make sure same user ID is used to file it again, or any actions to be taken on this to be filed and again, because same user ID mapping has happened to these forms migration, and that is the logical way of doing it. And you need to make sure you are using same ID to do or to add or edit any of the run forms in the new V3 system. Not able to log in my existing login ID, Mr. 7 Isha Gupta in new LLP error is throwing that above user ID is not in existence. Because of this, my past filing under the user ID as I can't access in new LLP portal. Again, ma'am, there can be an issue that your email IDs or multiple IDs were created in V2. I would request you to pay ticket in the call center. This is little bit technical issue where your other IDs has to be blocked or deactivated, and this 7 Isha Gupta with the same email ID will be created. Rather than creating login of each director and LLP, practicing professional be allowed to file forms from their registered login. So, ma'am, this is something we are bringing up a change. For one user ID that we have, we'll have only one DSC also associated. So please make sure we don't have multiple users in V3. That's what we were discussing. So for this to happen, you have to either upgrade yourself to that role and make do the filing, or you need to make sure you will have a fresh ID being created on a fresh email ID to do a multiple logins and filings. I have registered DSC or designated partner on my login ID, my mistake, so that on ID by mistake. So now on partner ID, DSC is not going to register. How to solve this? So there is for your partner's ID, you have to log in through his ID and make sure a DSC is associated against it. So I cannot associate multiple DSCs for multiple logins. It has to be one login ID against that one DSC has to be associated. That is how the process is, and that's how in the new filing that will be going to happen in V3.
Rohit, he has a specific question. He says he has registered the DSC of his designated partner on his login ID. So I presume this is a company secretary or a chartered accountant whose login ID is, let's say, auditor@gmail.com. Against that user ID, he has accidentally gone and attached and associated the DSC of a DP. So he has to reverse this transaction, right? He has to write to the call center.
Yes.
Or can I dissociate DSC option is there?
No, there's no unassociation of DSC. What he can do is he has to go to the call center, because against one login ID, only one will be associated. He has to go to the call center, raise a ticket. We have to technically take it off, and then he will do a fresh DSC registration against a login ID.
So it's something like this. The system has very high integrity. It's associating a mail ID to a person to his signature.
Yes.
So, and that's sort of uncompromisable. That's why,
Yes,
sir.
that's uncompromisable. You are right. Unable to open the form, the past history of my filed form opened whenever trying to open new form for filing. For example, at the time I click on LAP services and then on form 3, the application history opens instead of form 3. So this is little bit of technical issue, by the way. Now, if you are individual use or if you are an registered users, you are not allowed to open a form 3 at all. That is the reason it is always taking to the application history. If you are a business user, then only you will be able to access the form 3. We have been mentioning it from the top. Please make sure you have to upgrade yourself to a professional or business user. Then only you will be able to open the form 3. It will always take you to either to application history or the home page of the MCA website.
Rohit,
That is how it is done.
yeah, Rohit, then we propose a correction here. See, if I'm not authorized to file the form, I should get an error prompt saying you are not authorized to file this form. Keep it simple, no? Instead of
Yes,
taking
yes,
the application history, then we get confused. So if
yes,
you
yes,
can just kindly incorporate this change, it will be very helpful.
yes. We'll do that. We'll do that. That's good. I am
And
facing the sorry.
and request Sarika to just add these to the FAQ because I think a lot of people may be having this challenge.
Sure, ma'am.
We can add it in the question that says you're authorized to run only this form. However, as a registered user, if you try to run another form, it will keep taking you to application history and you can't file.
Okay, ma'am.
Please go ahead.
I am facing the problem with the association of DSCs on the LT portal. I associate the DSC, but it is showing through me error of registered the DSC while uploading. Okay, so what he or she is doing, so he has already registered on the V3 portal. So once he or she is filing the form, it is giving a DSC upload error. So there were two things that came up clearly from this DSC while doing the analysis. One is the DSC you are associating in the form versus the DSC you are associating or getting registered in our MCA portal should be same. Please make sure all the DSCs within that form you have associated, they are registered with us. So let's say example, I am an individual or I am a registered user. I have DSCs associated. I have any of the DSCs associated already there. But within the form, the DSCs that you are uploading, if that person is not registered with us as a DSC associate is not us, it will always give an error. So whatever DSCs you are using where filing the form, those also should be. It's not only the user DSC that should be there. It is also the DSCs you are using in the form should be also registered or associated within the MCA portal is something everybody should be taking this note. Otherwise, it will always give you an error. I had 2 resubmissions of LLPE forms in earlier version and which are not seen after login in V3 module through category updated as business user. Please guide how to proceed. So there are two things, sir and ma'am. If this is a fresh user ID you have used, your past history data will not come. If you have used the same ID where these filings were done in V2 and you're continuing the same ID in V3, for sure all the resubmissions should be coming. If at all these two resubmissions, if you are using V2 ID and still you are not able to get these two resubmissions, I would request to raise a complaint on our help desk. Will be help you in the technically how to get this done, because there are multiple IDs that you may have created within the database. So which particular ID you have been used in V2 to log in these or put or file these forms, we need to check and we'll be technically helping you in order to have these forms being coming into the application history. Unable to add role in a login account and unable to access V3, page is refreshing again and again. So sir, this may be one of the issue for you, but for most of us, we are able to log in, we are able to file. But again, if you have issue, please let us know. We will raise it on the technical team or base it on the help desk we have. We'll make sure your user ID with this problem, you will not face problem. I will be able to fix it. I have to file a company form. Why do I need to register my DSC? So, sir, as of now, the DSC are open at both the places. Registration at V2. At V2, we'll be having the company ones. If you are filing a company form, please register your DSC at the earlier portal. If you have to file an LLP one, please register your DSC on the LLP portal, the new portal, and make sure you are doing the filings based on what form you want to choose. But as of now, the DSC has to be registered at both the places to make sure your filing is smooth. So with this, I think I am done with most of the questions that I had, and these were some of the questions that we have raised, that users have raised through your Google form. We have just picked them. So what we'll do more and more in future is we'll pick these questions now log in and DSC, and we'll take up the form wise questions to make sure that we are giving enough information on the questions that you are raising, and so that the solutions are given on this platform as well.
Rohit, question, Rohit. You mentioned that if I want to file a company form, I have to associate it my DSC on V2. Whereas our understanding is that the association happens only in V3 and then it will flow to V2. Which
yes,
one?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So this is the process. There was a lag in between for some time because there were many questions being raised and our call center was filled with the calls. So what we had done is we had opened that as well to make sure the users are not facing. So as of now, as on date, both the services are open so that users are not facing any problem. In future time, we'll take it off just to make sure that people are not facing any issues.
Because our FAQs today are structured purely based on your original process, which was to register only in V3.
Yeah, because when we go live, it was not there. We had taken it off, but in middle, ministry had taken the decision that we'll open both of it just to make sure that people are not facing any challenges. We'll update this in FAQ again and in the process as well and make sure that it is there. But trust me, this won't be there more. Ministry is also discussing on this to take it off very soon. So it we'll be back to the original one, Shripriya.
Because our FAQ says you can associate your DSC only as a business user in V3. So we may just have to give one option. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So thanks very much, Rohit and Sarika. If there are any more questions, happy to.
Yes, ma'am. Only a few questions. I'll just be taking it. Some people have already raised the tickets. So kindly look at it. They have already also shared their SRNs. Then at the time of launch of V3, we have registered fresh as business user with my PAN. But now I want my earlier login IDs to continue as business user in V3 because it has resubmissions to do, approved run, etc. So what should I do to cancel my new registration? I have also raised ticket and mailed to MCA a few days back.
Sarika, I have a small request. Maybe you should share your screen because the question was very long for Mr. Rohit's benefit.
I have already shared the question with Mr. Rohit.
It is better that these questions are being sent through Google form rather than taking one by one here. If the SRs are also there, good, we'll take it up. So what we are doing is, if we are not able to reach out, or this is the good platform that we are starting now as we start, we'll take 10-15 questions now form wise as well to reach as many as people on this platform and giving answers to the question. And if you can send me those questions, I will take them and I will pick and either call them, or if not, we are able to answer these questions from here. So there are a lot of mediums or a lot of ways or communication channels which are open. We will be reaching out to them.
So I see a lot of questions which are relating precisely to the FAQs we have answered today. So for example, I'm showing my screen. Mr. Dayanand Robolo asks, the system says, but the checkbox for updation of email mobile in DIR 6 is disabled. So it's a DIR form. So we're broadly talking about LLPs today. So there's a bit of a, so today you can't change your email or your mobile. So that's a system control, but you can raise a ticket. They'll be happy to get back to you. Yes, Rohit, would you, so how do we take this forward? Do we do more questions, or would you like to wrap up and continue?
I want to wrap up, ma'am, because trust me, I'm interacting with a lot of users. I have 6 to 7 now to pick it up. I would request that I will pick or send it this form to us, and we will every day or maybe alternate day, whatever the way we are aligning this, we'll take 10 to 15 questions. We can extend it to 20 as well to make sure that we are reaching 20 users at least daily through these platform as well, other than the call center or maybe other channels which are open.
Sure.
Ma'am, actually, Vijaya here. I just wanted to highlight 2 points. So point number 1, actually, you have highlighted in one of the FAQs that so associate DSCs is allowed only for business user. The exception that we have provided only for Philip. Because suppose, let's say, there are 2 proposed designated partners who are not having DIN, wants to want to become a proposed designated partners, and one DSC is a required minimum requirement, right? So in that case, we have extended this DSC association for the registered users. This is fine. So, but there's one more step that we need to make sure that we need to do after incorporation. Suppose, let's say, Philip is getting filed with 2 proposed designated partners, and 2 of them are not having a DIN number. So basically, they'll be applying for DIN number through Philip form. So maybe one of the user is getting associated is DSC because he has to register on portal as a registered user at least by providing his PAN, which is a mandatory requirement for associating the DSC, and he'll be affixing the DSC in Philip form, and that Philip form gets approved. So both the proposed directors will get a DIN number. So now what is the minimum requirement that they have to make sure is they have to upgrade. Suppose, let's say I have affixed my DSC by registering myself as a registered user by providing my PAN number currently, right? So basically in the system, my DSC is associated with my PAN number. Now, once my LLP gets incorporated, I've got my DIN number already. Now, let us take an example that I have to go and file Form 3 LLP. So Form 3 LLP asks me to enter the DPIN number whenever I want to fix my DSC. Now in the currently system, it is actually my DSC is linked with my PAN because DIN I've got it after the approval of Philip form. So here one important thing that we need to do is, first of all, the user, he has to upgrade himself or herself to a director role by providing his DIN number, and he has to associate the DSC with the DIN number. Only then they will be able to sign the forms going forward.
Okay. We'll add this as an FAQ.
Yeah.
And to
I
summarize,
hope it is clear, ma'am.
Yes, I can repeat.
Yeah,
it
so
once
Shripriya,
again
I just
for the
wanted to
benefit.
give some figures by the end of the call.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So what Vijaya was coming to say is, when you file a Philip form, there is a situation that both DPs don't have a DPIN, a DIN
Yes.
number. So typically, one of the partners comes in as a registered user, and for the purpose of filing Philip alone,
Yes.
does a DSC association with his PAN number and not the full normal process, and hence both of them get their DPIN numbers. Then, when this user has got his DPIN number, he ought to associate his DSC to the DPIN.
Yes, ma'am.
Because previously his DSC was associated to his PAN. And with a PAN-based DSC association, you can't file an LLP form. So you have
Yes.
to automatically upgrade to your DIN-based DSC association. Yes, Vijaya,
Yes.
we'll add that
Yes.
in the FAQs, and maybe all these FAQs, we can even push it out as simple one-page slides, Sarika.
Yeah.
Each FAQ can become a slide. Yeah.
Yes,
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 Rohit.
ma'am. So,
Rohit,
ma'am,
you may-
one more, actually, it is not a query or something. It is just a suggestion from our side, because we've seen many issues where professionals are saying that my email ID is already used, some other user ID, or my PAN number is already used. So that is the reason why actually we have introduced this concept of company user or LLP user, which is different from V2. So basically in V2, it will not ask you to provide your SIN number or LLP number. Say, for example, there's one practicing professional who is handling 10 LLPs. So we would recommend to create the user IDs, LLP user IDs for these 10 LLPs, because advantage is whenever you're trying to file a form, by logging in with the LLP user, you are not required to fill in your LLP number and or search for your LLP name or company. Whenever you log in with your LLP number, it gets pre-filled automatically, so it saves a lot of time. So only the thing that we need to do is if I'm handling with 10 different companies or 10 different LLPs, I just have to create 10 different user IDs for each such company or LLP, so that it will ease my future process, I mean, uploading of the forms. And the next advantage is basically your application history. So there is no need to put so many filters and all. Suppose if I want to see, I'm handling with so many companies, I want to see how many forms got uploaded for so and so company. If you have a separate user ID for which is specifically for that company or LLP, it will ease the professionals for checking all this application history dashboard also. This is just a suggestion from our side to create the company or LLP users to the extent possible to avoid all these multiple issues with the same PAN number or email ID.
Can you just tell the call to action alone once more? Your voice had tapered off.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say, ma'am, suppose we
Only
have
the last line.
So basically what we suggest is basically to create a LLP user for each company or each LLP, so that it is easier for the professional to manage the my application dashboard. Because suppose if you have a business user with LLPin, suppose let's say LLPin number 1, 2, 3, and you can handle this, you can see application history mein you will get to see only the forms which got filed for this LLPin. And anybody who have the access to this LLPin, they can upload the form.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and one more advantage is basically whenever you're trying to open the form, so when you're logging in with this LLPin user, LLPin will get auto-filled automatically. I mean, there's no need to search for LLPin, or there's no need to search for LLP name. So this is also one of the advantage.
But imagine if I'm part of 10, 12 LLPs, will I have separate user IDs separately?
You can create. So you can create if you want to. So by looking at the
mail
advantages.
IDs also have to be different, no?
Yes, ma'am. So email ID in this case, it will be a company email ID only. So only in this case.
Okay.
Yeah. So generally, we have seen that user ID will be email ID for all the cases, right? For all the users except company or LLP user. In case of company or LLP user, your user ID will be your LLP number or the SIN number. This is the advantage.
Okay, so I'll have an LLP number followed by my mail ID of the LLP.
Yes.
So when I go to my application history, it's a completely unique dashboard.
Unique
for
that particular LLP or company. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So Shripriya, I just wanted to show one figures, what we could see. There are total 26,000 users who have registered on our portal till date from go live.
Okay, right? Project the screen now, Rohit, if it's okay. If you have it.
Server to the browser. So even if many people are. Can you see it?
Yes.
So we have total of 26,000 users so far who are registered on our portal. Okay.
In V3.
In V3. Out of them, 17,846 are individual users.
Which is a registered user. Yeah.
Which is a registered user. The rest of them are business users. So most of the filing, if you see, there is still, if you see lot many DSC is getting failed or DSC is not working properly, that means if they are not registered, if the equal number of people have not been registered, that means these people have also not registered their DSCs as well. As I was mentioning, your form DSCs or the DSCs you are associated in the system should be mandatorily being registered within the system. Then only your DSCs will be successful. If let's say example, I'm an individual trying to fill a form and I am associating DSCs of the whatever DSCs I had, and they are not registered within my system, maybe maybe from directors or others, and I'm trying to upload that particular PDF into or the PDF into the system, it always give a DSC error because your number here shows there's huge number of people who are still not registered with us and their DSCs are not registered with us. So that shows that most of the people DSCs are still not associated. which will not or hamper their filing from end-to-end perspective and always give a DSC error. So I just wanted to give a perspective, and these FAQs, whatever we have given today and the answers we have given today, please make sure whosoever director are still not registered with us, please go and register yourself, associate your DSCs, and then your filing will be smooth. I don't see there will be lot much of people or not much of issues related to DSC after that.
So what we're primarily trying to say is maybe registered users are trying to fill forms. It's taking them to the My Application history anyway. So I can't even try to fill a form other than fill it.
Yeah.
You're saying unless a registered user actually becomes a business user and registers as DSC.
Yes.
There's really no filing that's happening.
Yes.
Correct.
So it is only those people who are registered here and here, both places, are able to do the filing successfully. The filings that so far we have successful. Otherwise, it will be pretty much the way, I mean, my filing is not being done. I'm getting a DSC error all the time. Please make sure whatever directors you have or the professionals you have, professional people who are there in the call, whatever directors you had, please make sure, tell them to register on the MCA portal, associate your DSCs, and you will be able to do it successfully end to end.
Thanks, Rohit.
So, yes, ma'am. So whatever Rohit is mentioned is correct, because we have around 2.5 lakh active LLPs. It means at least we should have 2.5 lakh active business users in our system.
Come in, Vijaya. They will all come in. We're all living through a year end. So
this is one of the data that we have come up with, Shripriya, as was mentioning, and this is something that we all have, and this is what the system is all about. We wanted all the users to create their user IDs fresh, associate their DSCs here, and then do a filing end to end. That is how the logic or business logic of this application is altogether.
Sure. So if there are no other questions, but Rohit, we'll need to come up with some strategy to answer the unanswered questions. So a lot of people have put in questions, and maybe in the next session, we'll take 10 and compress them. So
I'm okay to take up 20 just to make sure that we are putting 30 minutes only on question answers and try to reach as many people. I have been getting phone calls. My LinkedIn is full. I'm not on other Facebooks, and all those people are probably people may be trying that as well. Request is, sir, that's all a personal platform. Please, there's a channel here. Please come through a channel to address your concerns. And I am ready to help you. I'm ready to answer this question on this platform as well, taking 20 questions each to make sure that we are able to use maximum usage of this platform.
Sure, Rohit. We really appreciate this effort, but so kindly come in through the grievance channels. That will be helpful for everybody. So thank you very, very much. And if there is nothing else to go about, we can conclude this webinar. So thanks once again to everybody who's formed part of this webinar here today. And I read a very nice quote. It said, knowledge divides. In fact, somebody had mentioned it, and wisdom unites. So just be a little patient. And that's what I think wisdom is all about. The system will eventually, sort of clear up. And I'm sure this webinar will be a thing of the past in about a month's time on LLPs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.